All right, we are now going to look at word problems, which is a sentence that fills many a math student with dread. But it's going to be okay. We're going to go through these. We're going to talk about a great way that we can go through and answer these. And I think you're going to be okay. All right, so we have basically 4 steps that we're going to do when we solve a word problem. So the first thing that we're going to do is we are going to define a variable. Remember how we said that variables are letters or symbols that stand for an unknown number? Well, what we're going to do is we're just going to say, basically, this is the letter that I'm using, and this is what it's supposed to represent. Does it represent the number of kittens that are at the store? Does it represent how many toes are on the jellyfish? Does it represent how many oranges you can fit in a basket? What does your variable represent? That's what we're going to do when we define it. The second thing that we're going to do is we are going to write an equation. Okay? Once we've written that equation, we are then going to solve our equation and check it. And then once we've done that, we're going to write our solution as a sentence that answers the question that the word problem asked. Okay, so you're going to see a question at the end of the word problem. We're going to write a sentence that answers the question. Okay, now looking at this, defining your variable is really easy. Writing the equation, that's going to be the new part for you. Solving, we already know how to do, and writing a sentence you can totally handle. Okay, so really it's just the step 2 that might be a little bit of trouble. The rest of it's pretty easy. So we can totally handle this. So let's look at this guy. You have some gobstoppers that you want to share with your friends. You split the candy equally between the 4 of you. If each person gets 12 gobstoppers, how many did you have originally? Okay, so here's the nice thing about defining your variable. To define your variable, all you really need to do is find the question. The question says, how many did you have originally? So when I define my variable, I'm going to start by picking a letter. I'm going to use G for gobstoppers for this one. You can use X if you like. Okay, and the question is asking you how many gobstoppers did you have originally? So when I define my variable, I'm going to define it as how many gobstoppers I had originally. Okay, so see how easy that is? You just look at what is the question asking you to find, and you rephrase it basically as a statement, and that's what your variable stands for. Okay, great. So that's how many you had originally. So let's go back through this problem, and we're going to try to write an equation as we go. So I have some gobstoppers, right? That's what my G is. I have G gobstoppers originally. So I've got my G gobstoppers. I shared them with my friends, and we split it equally. Okay, so splitting candy equally, that is talking about dividing, right? If you split something up evenly, you're dividing it into pieces, right? So I have some gobstoppers, that's what G is, and then I know I'm dividing it between 4 people. Okay, and once I do that, every person gets 12 gobstoppers. So what's going on in this equation? Well, I have G gobstoppers, and then I'm dividing it into 4 groups for 4 people. And after I do that, the answer, what I get when I do that, is that each person gets 12. So how many I had originally, I split them into 4 groups, and that means that every person gets 12. Okay, so there's my equation. We wrote our equation. All right, now box number 3, we're going to solve that equation. So I'm going to start by just recopying it over here. So G over 4 equals 12, and then we're going to solve it. Okay, so solving this equation, you know how to handle this. Line for my equal sign. Remember, this is division, right? Division right here. So to undo that, I'm going to multiply both sides by 4. Okay, so I'll be left with G over here, and then 12 times 4 is 48. Okay, we just want to double check that that answer makes sense. So if I take that 48 and I plug it back in for what my G value is, right? Plugging it in for G here. Well, when I check that, I would get 48 for G. Remember, we're plugging that in, divided by 4. And we want to know, is that 12? Does that equal 12? Well, is 48 divided by 4 12? Yeah. So I know I got the answer right. All right, and then last but not least is we are going to write a sentence answering the question. The question was, how many gobstoppers did you have originally? So my sentence is going to be, I had 48 gobstoppers originally. Okay, and you can either pull that from your question or go back to what you defined your variable as, right? You said that G was how many gobstoppers you had originally. So my sentence is, I had 48 gobstoppers originally. Okay, so this part, super easy. This part, super easy. This part's the part that's a little bit tricky. You already know how to do this. Okay, so the only part that's a little bit weird is just that writing of your equation. But we are going to practice this a ton, okay? So don't panic if you feel like word problems are difficult for you. We're going to really work at them.